I made a decision early on in our congressional race not to endorse anyone. Republicans do not need me to tell them who to vote for. They don't need anyone to tell them who to vote for. They can make a wise decision without my input. However, after seeing the slanderous mailings that are being sent out against Congressman Steve King, and after hearing inaccurate statements made by one particular candidate during the forums, I have made the decision to simply tell you that I am voting for Congressman Steve King and to tell you why. I have been receiving mailers from a group called Defending Main Street Super PAC. The information on these mailers is slanderous and usually contains only half the truth. There was the one that talked about Congressman Steve King voting against the Coronavirus Response Act, when in fact he was simply trying to stop the billions of dollars of garbage spending the Democrats were throwing into that bill, including millions of dollars to the Kennedy Center. Now, we all know how that worked out. We know the Kennedy Center received that money, but they laid off lots of people anyway. Congressman King was trying to stop the Democrats from using the coronavirus emergency to advance their radical agenda, spend billions of dollars in trying to transform the nation into something most of us would not even recognize. Following the Crawford County Forum, I had a lengthy discussion with Congressman King. I know that he shares my deep concerns about actions taken by our government in response to the coronavirus and the dire implications to our economic future and our liberties. I know that he stands for the Bill of Rights and for common sense conservative government based upon the founding values of our nation. I know that he recognizes the importance of American exceptionalism, and he understands what makes us exceptional. As de Tocqueville so eloquently put it, if America ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. Congressman King understands that. Now, I do believe in President Reagan's 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican. Yet, I watch day after day as these garbage mailers arrive in my mailbox, likely sent by individuals most of us would identify as rhinos, Republican in name only. I know Congressman King. I know that he believes his conservative values will lift up everyone, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of creed. I know that he embraces the values that made America and Iowa great. And I know that he fights for those values as hard as he possibly can. I know this because I have seen it personally. Several years ago, we were working hard in the Iowa House to get the votes necessary to pass the historic heartbeat bill. This legislation was nearly identical to what Congressman King had introduced in the United States House of Representatives. He had staff members at the Iowa House nearly every day working with those of us who were fighting to get the heartbeat bill passed. I remember having numerous conversations with him and his staff. He would call me and simply ask, "What can I do to help you get this passed?" He was there for us, sending staff to help us, making phone calls. In Washington, D.C., he was fighting a so called pro life group that suddenly decided they were opposed to the heartbeat bill. In Iowa, that group now, I believe, supports Senator Feenstra. Having fought in the trenches on the life issue for 6 years, it is inexplicable to me that a so called pro life group would not support a heartbeat bill. With all of this going on, with all these battles, Congressman King was still helping us to get it done on the state level. He was a key reason that we ultimately were able to get it passed. I hear one particular individual in this race, Senator Randy Feenstra, talk about how he got it done in Iowa, suggesting that Congressman King has not been effective. This, ladies and gentlemen, is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. The fact of the matter is, many Republicans in the Iowa House and Senate worked hard to get the heartbeat bill passed. There were many legislators who, in their public statements and behind the scenes, worked hard and showed themselves to be at the forefront of this battle. I had frequent communication with Iowa senators who were trying to get the votes in the House to pass the heartbeat bill, help us to get the votes to pass the heartbeat bill. They would call, they would offer support, and ask us if there was anything that they could do. I can tell you that I personally never received communication from Senator Feenstra, and I was indeed in the middle of the battle of the heartbeat bill. I do know that I was helped immeasurably by Congressman Steve King. Congressman King walks the walk when it comes to fighting for the values he talks about on the campaign trail. This cannot be said, unfortunately, for all elected officials. This is a difficult message for me to deliver. I have the greatest respect for those running for this seat. I have gotten to know many of them personally, and I deeply respect them and their commitment to conservative values. I believe they would make excellent congressmen. However, we already have an outstanding congressman who has been fighting for our values for years. Because he is so effective, he has become the target of the far left and their media mouthpieces. I have a little experience with this, folks, because I have faced the same thing on a much smaller scale here in Iowa. Because I have been a leader in passing such legislation as banning sanctuary cities, the heartbeat bill, collective bargaining reform, judicial nomination reform, all of these things strongly opposed by Democrats and the left, I have had my share of attacks on my family and on me personally, and my family has experienced these things. Congressman King faces the same thing on a much larger scale. And by the way, it took me 2 years to get the law passed that made sanctuary cities illegal here in Iowa. And once again, Congressman King was there helping me to get it passed. His staff offered their assistance, and he called me frequently to see what he could do to help. He is attacked and accused of many different ridiculous things precisely because he is highly effective in promoting our conservative values in Washington, D.C., and right here in the state of Iowa. So it is not because I believe other candidates running for this office are not qualified. I believe most of them are. I believe we already have a highly effective congressman who has been the subject of numerous unfair attacks precisely because he fights for the values he talked about on the campaign trail. He's the same person behind the door as he is in front of the door. I know. I've seen it. I am glad he is fighting for our values in Washington, D.C. and right here in Iowa. And this Republican intends to vote for Congressman Steve King on Tuesday, June 2nd, and in the general election. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.